Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Katarn here aboard the Intrepid Dawn. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Fallen Republic, a total conversion Star Wars mod for Stellaris under development from the same people that brought you the incredible Star Trek mod, New Horizons. I'm joined by lead developer SnapStyle. SnapStyle, welcome aboard the Intrepid Dawn. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and how did you get into modding?
There was a stint a while back when I worked briefly on the maps for Phoenix Rising. That was eons ago, back when EAW was like very first being modded, and like even like Throne's Revenge wasn't really a thing. It was back in the era before Evil Bob the Bob took over Phoenix Rising, when the old creator had it, and I worked on a couple of the maps for that mod. I kind of fell out of it after that for a long time, really, and then for some reason I don't know what it was, but I did like the work that Last Leviathan did on the Stellaris mod, but obviously he never finished it, so that was probably the main reason I decided to start working on a Star Wars mod, because looking at New Horizons, and I kind of wanted something similar for like Star Wars, and just started looking into it. And at this point, I wasn't even working with the New Horizons guys like Shago and all them, and Alrati. Like none of them were a part of the team. There was a guy who went by the handle Mr. Freak, who was helping me out with events a little bit, and he did come over to the new team, but he's been pretty inactive for a while. But like that was like that was like the proto of what I was working on. But I did ended up getting in touch with Shago, and he helped me a lot with a lot of questions that I had about modding, and I was kind of bringing myself up to speed on how all this works. And then eventually Last Leviathan went to the New Horizons guys and said, I don't have time to work on this, and I haven't finished it, and I think people really would like someone to finish it. So he kind of gave it over to what he considered would probably be the best tear kickers, considering what New Horizons, the notoriety of New Horizons is obvious in the Stellaris modding community, and gave it over to them. And Shago knew I was working on my own project, which was a lot less wide in scope. It probably would have been released already if it wasn't for the fact that Shago asked me to come on, and we started really working on like a proper total conversion, which is basically, that basically leads into where we are today.
Well, that's really exciting. So how long have you been working on the mod in total, would you say?
About 2 years now.
I take it that's probably due to people's availabilities on a volunteer project like this. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the team that you're working with and who's putting this together with you?
People have come and gone over time. So right now I'm thinking some of the major players would be, we did pick up a couple new people recently that have started really hammering home on events. Because I don't tend to work with the event side of things. I tend to focus on like the map and the ships and the combat, like that sort of balanced stuff. Shago tends to work more with scripting. So Shago's a big part. Already is obvious. He's, our main ship designer, 3D modeler, and he does great work. He took a break for a little while, but he's back. So he's currently working on the Mandalorian ships, which we should have a couple of those coming out for teasers soon. There's actually been a bunch that we finished, but the teasers have been kind of a... It's been hard to keep up with that. I don't think a weekly teaser was a good idea, looking back on it. But that said, I think there's about 7 people.
That's a pretty substantial team in today's modding world, where it's typically maybe a guy or a handful of guys working on something. So it's pretty cool to see that level of collaboration. Now, I'm going to get into the mod itself and ask a few questions. Last time I had you, I think it was maybe August of 2018 when we talked about this, a long time ago in the development. You had mentioned a lot of story-driven gameplay. Now, is your mod set up to be more of like a single-player campaign, or can you tell us exactly, what the experience is that we're going to have, what kind of maps there'll be available in the mod itself, just wherever you want to take it here?
Oh yeah, no, I made sure to include this. One of the things I wanted to encourage was people being able to play on random maps, for like small multiplayer games. There's like a thinner version of the canon map, and then there's obviously like the complete full-on, what I would probably say is akin to like a Europa Universalis start for the mod. You know what I mean? Where most of the map is, not most of the map, but a good chunk of the map. I'd say probably a fourth is already colonized. The Empire starts pretty big, so do the Hutts, for example. There will be versions of that map that will also be more akin to like a New Horizons start, where like maybe you have like 5, 6, 7 systems total and like a couple of planets. So there's about as many game modes as I could imagine that we added, and that's currently in and working. The closest thing to a single player campaign would be to play the canon map where everything is colonized per se. I mean, it's still going to be pretty open-ended. You know, we might have some event chains that guide things along certain paths, especially on the more canon maps, or even like game mechanics that are specific to the maps. Like, I don't want to announce anything ahead of time, but we were looking at some kind of interesting back and forth system between the Loyalists and the Empire at the start.
That is something that I think that Stellaris has needed for a long time. Just a way to have like a multiplayer player versus player, like a team-based game in Stellaris, not just like a Federations, but we'll see where that goes, and I'm really excited about that. Now, you'd mentioned, obviously, the Empire, and you said the Republic, and I assume like the Rebel Alliance and things like that, but can you tell us, which factions are in and how many factions there are?
There's too many to list. I mean, we've actually been considering removing a few, but there's a whole bunch. I mean, almost anything you could imagine. The Centralities even exist, which is like a very small fringe empire, like out in like the eastern part of the galaxy. If you look at the map, like a north-south polar coordinate. The CSA's in, the CIS is in, the Hutts are in. Chiss have been added, Hapes, Imperials, obviously. The precursors of the Rebels, which would be the Republic Loyalists, and we're kind of, like I said, we're trying to take a look at making that interesting on the canon starts. There's a number of things. I even think we added in like Pantora, so the Pantorans are there.
That sounds awesome and really ambitious. Now, my question is, will people be able to create their own races? And the reason I ask is, whenever I used to do multiplayer Stellaris games on my channel, it would always upset me if I was making a Star Wars multiplayer and somebody made this clearly non-Star Wars race that was just going to, have the best of everything. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, similar to New Horizons, we're going to disable custom Empire creation. It causes too many problems. So what you get is what you got.
I'm a big fan of that decision. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the ship sets? Are each of these empires going to have their own ship sets, or how is that going to work?
As far as the ship sets go, that's going to differ. Like the Imperials will obviously have a very unique one, but for example, like the Rebels and the Hutts might use some overlap ships. The Mandalorians are getting like a pretty unique ship tree.
And what about the technology tree in the game? Is it going to be similar to New Horizons, similar to Vanilla, something that you just created yourself? Can you tell us more about that?
It's going to be pretty similar to New Horizons in terms of the tree itself. The way it's unlocked will be different. Our technology approach is going to be it's going to be similar to New Horizons, but I think I'm going to take a much more I'm not sure how to put this, but refined approach. So less text, longer text, so to speak, and the ships will be unlocked in clusters as opposed to like one tech per ship size.
All right, that's pretty exciting. Now, how will the starting conditions work? For example, if I'm playing as the Empire, I don't expect to just have Corvettes whenever I start. I think that doesn't necessarily work very well, and it's certainly not as conducive to multiplayer as I'd like. So how do you plan to tackle something like that?
It's going to depend on the map you start on. So if you start like on a random map, for example, you would start with, and we could maybe actually look into making a slider. I don't want to promise that. So if you start on a canon map as the Empire, for example, you would be able to start the game making Venators, for example. But if you started like on a random like 200, I forget what the sizes are, but I think it's like 600 or 400 might be the smallest. But like let's say you started on the smallest random map, you would have like you would only have access to like the CR90, for example, as the Empire.
Is there anything new that you guys are adding to the mod itself that will kind of add to the direction of where Stellaris modding can go? Kind of like New Horizons pretty much rewrote the rules for what was possible and a total conversion. Anything like that on the horizon?
No, just that we've been having a lot of discussions about stuff, and the Federations update that's coming out is actually quite good and opens up a lot of stuff for us. I can't talk too much about it because it's still in beta, but it's going to be good.
That's really exciting. Now, the question that's on everybody's mind, and probably the most important question from the interview to a lot of people, is when is this coming out? I know you guys have been working on it for a long time. It's very anticipated. I might even say it's the most highly anticipated mod in Stellaris history. No offense to New Horizons, but people want to know, can you give us a release window or any information regarding that?
We don't have an official date yet. We are aiming to maybe get like a beta going, probably soon after Federation's update releases.
All right, that's not too far away, so that's actually pretty exciting. I'm glad to hear that. Can't wait to be a part of it. So definitely check out the channel if you're interested in watching that. And I want to thank my guest, SnapStyle, for coming on. So Snap, thank you so much for being a part of this and for informing the viewers. If you have additional questions for Snap, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll bring them back to him. And we might even have a part 2 if we can get some really thought-provoking questions and see where that goes. So thank you again for joining me today, Snap.
No problem.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Captain Katarn, and I will see you in the verse.